Bleach is a series that is very close to my heart. It's the first anime I watched and the first manga that I read. It literally changed me as a person and introduced me to a new genre of art that now rules over my tastes. So when the manga was announced to end, I was devastated and, in a weekend, reread all 693 chapters that were out at that point. At the beginning of the second to last chapter, there was a full-page spread announcing that with the last chapter, there would be a large announcement for Bleach. Many theories were tossed around, from the manga continuing in a different magazine, to the anime getting continued, and even to getting another video game. However, when the last chapter came in, the announcement was underwhelming, to say the least. There would be a live-action movie that would begin production to honor Bleach. If you're invested in Japanese media, you'll know that most live-action adaptations of manga and anime have been less than impressive and generally bad, both critically and commercially. Now that the movie is out, the consensus is that the movie is good. I mean, we have Soto Fukushi, Gentaro Kusaragi's actor from Kamen Rider Fourze, playing Ichigo Kurosaki. That's honestly a match made in heaven. Now, it's not great by any means, but it respects the source material and only changes things to make them better fit the format of a movie. So, job well done, I say. Well, I would say if Grand Fisher had been treated differently. Hollows are one of the most important parts of Bleach throughout its entire run. Basically, a hollow is a person who has died and either was corrupted as a ghost or were evil and let hate consume them. There are different ranks of hollows, but for the arc that was adapted, most of the hollows are not very intelligent and just hunt down spiritual pressure to consume. Fishbone is the first hollow that shows up and is one of very low intelligence. In both the manga and anime adaptation, Fishbone is not able to speak and just shrieks like an animal. However, in the movie, it can say words, albeit very basic ones, but there's still words, showing that this creature has intelligence. This gave me a bad feeling, but I brushed it aside thinking that Grand Fisher would be more intelligent. In short, he wasn't. I would argue that the battle with Grand Fisher is one of the most important battles for Ichigo in the entire series, let alone the arc. Ichigo's mother is killed by a hollow, but he doesn't know that and blames himself for the incident, thinking that he was unable to protect both his mother and the girl he thought he saw by the river. He spends 3 days walking along the riverbank, not going home, and trying to find this little girl, but to no avail. Jump forward 6 years, and Ichigo and his family are taking their yearly pilgrimage to her grave to pay their respects. This is where the battle with Grand Fisher takes place, on the anniversary of his mother's death, at her burial site, while it's raining. The name of the volume is Memories in the Rain, and this is the point where Ichigo comes to terms with his mother's death and stops blaming himself for what happened. The movie starts with Ichigo as a child and his mother walking home from karate lessons. This isn't shown, but if you've read the manga, you know that's where they were, and it's raining. The scene ends with Ichigo laying underneath his mother's corpse after attempting to save a girl on the riverbank. I knew from this moment that Grand Fisher would be in the movie, and I was more than excited to see him, especially after seeing just how terrifying Fishbone was. But when we got to the fight, I was disappointed and almost pissed off. The build-up to the fight was great. It introduced Grand Fisher as a threat by having that be the reason Rukia was in Karakura Town, as well as hinting to the fact that he was the one who killed Ichigo's mother. The beginning of the fight went just as expected, except for Ichigo not asking Rukia to butt in, which I thought was odd, but I thought it might come up later in the fight. It didn't. In fact, he gets help from Uryu, someone who kind of felt forced into the story to get the full main cast to have appearances in the movie. Not only does he get help, but the fight turns into a Michael Bay style fight, destroying a small part of Karakura Town with lots of damage and chaos. It loses any emotion it might have had by becoming an action spectacle and transition fight to the final fight of the film. At the end of the fight in the manga, Ichigo's beat up and on the verge of death. He collapses into Rukia's arms and can't stand, let alone fight 2 Soul Reapers of high rank. He becomes this way because he refuses help and needs to settle the fight himself so that he can avenge his mother and know that he can protect people, in this case, his 2 sisters and father. The two girls in the movie are way too young to be middle schoolers. There's no way Rukia is wearing Yuzu's pajamas unless Yuzu grows a couple feet in height during the night. Another key point to the fight in the manga is that while Ichigo won, Grand Fisher still got away, albeit he was heavily injured and in fear for his life. Ichigo was also heavily injured and still felt that he was unable to avenge his mother. It's not until he talks to his father at the grave that he fully accepts that nobody blames him. He screams and shouts, asking his father why they don't blame him for his mother, Masaki, dying. Isshin responds with a simple, "Why blame you?" He continues by saying that Masaki would be mad at him if he blamed Ichigo, and sums it all up with,
"Sometimes in life bad things just happen, and she knew that. She was the woman I loved. A woman with so much love in her heart, she would do anything to protect her family. And remember this. That woman whom I loved so much was willing to give up her own life to protect yours."
Wow, Dad.
I understand that I have a strong bias towards Bleach, as it is one of my favorite series. But this is one of the best fights I've ever read, and every time I read it, I gain more from it. The movie can get the characters right and create an enjoyable story from the world and powers that Tite Kubo creates, but it really missed what I feel to be one of the most important scenes for Ichigo as a character. This is the fight that made him want to continue being a Soul Reaper, even if it was just to kill Grand Fisher. This is the fight that helped him overcome his self-loathing at taking the sun out of his family's solar system. This is the fight that best exemplifies what Bleach is and what Tite Kubo wanted to say with his story. Ichigo wants to protect people who can't protect themselves, and never wants others to feel the same way he did when his mother died.
"Be strong, Ichigo. Live well, grow old well, grow bald well, and then die long after I've died. And if possible, die with a smile on your face. Otherwise, I'll never be able to face Masaki. Try to shake off that gloom and depression, son. You're way too young to carry around such a heavy burden. I'll be waiting at the bottom of the hill."
Nobody knows who I really am. I never felt this empty before. And if